The same time on Canal International, this is the news coming to you live from Douala. First things first though, here's Kejang Henry Atembe with the headlines.
Its fury, resulting in significant homes have been severed, schools which have had their roofs completely torn off, as well as a public health center which sustained extensive structural damage. And as Cameroon's nationwide teachers' strike stretches onto its third term, growing concerns surround the impact on student assessments and year-end examinations. In response, some school administrators are stepping up to ensure the continuity of learning through a minimum service plan, determined to safeguard students' futures amidst the turmoil. And finally, some good news from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the government and the M23 rebels have announced a joint commitment to cease hostilities. The move marks a significant development in the ongoing conflict in the eastern region of the country. The declaration results from over a week of mediated discussions in Doha, Qatar, where both parties expressed the desire to work towards a permanent truce despite lingering tensions. Those were our headlines. Stay Junior.
Welcome back, and so let's start out from the Adamawa region, and precisely Neganga, where several days of heavy rains and storms have been wreaking untold havoc. In fact, as we speak, some 300 homes have been destroyed, as well as several educational and healthcare facilities. Up next, Dean Maureen adds that scores of men, women, and children are currently receiving treatment for the wounds they sustained. She reports with Eringele.
In Meganga, the rainy season has struck with brutal force. Torrential downpours have left behind a trail of destruction, with over 300 homes reportedly devastated, according to earlier assessments. Among the hardest hit structures are public primary schools, Mbale and Ndeke, whose roofs were completely torn off, along with Meganga's public health center, which suffered several structural damage. While it was raining, there was a violent wind and it completely wrote off the zinc. We only discovered water in the classrooms. One had shock and another had a fracture. The town had barely enjoyed 3 days of respite before being submerged again in flood and tears. As news of the damage spread, local authorities quickly mobilized, visiting affected zones and health facilities where injured victims, including those with fractures, are currently receiving treatment. Among the wounded are many children, including a young girl now suffering visible trauma from the incident. We've registered cases of fractures and trauma. All the patients are being taken care of. We've made the accidents and we have taken measures at the level of the hospital as well. According to the divisional officer, this is a third consecutive week of devastation in the Bere division, where violent rains have swept away homes and displaced entire communities. Authorities are now calling on the Department of Civil Protection to urgently intervene and support relief efforts.
Meanwhile, in Kribi, the roofs of several classrooms at the urban bilingual high school have been swept away following heavy rains and violent winds Wednesday. Local administrative authorities have been sizing up the span of the damage, which observers say will definitely impact the learning process for students, and especially those sitting for official exams at the end of the third term. We'll definitely be coming back with more developments on this story in our subsequent editions of the news. And earlier this week, let's stay on in education, because earlier this week, a strike action called by the Cameroon Teachers Association, or rather organization, took effect in several schools across the country. The teachers are demanding not only a special status, but also the convening of National Education Forum before the October presidential election. And as the strike action extends into the third term, concerns are mounting regarding its impact on students and the year-end examinations. Now, in a proactive response, some school administrators are putting in place measures to ensure that minimum service is at least conducted for the students. Let's move on to something else now, to the region of Cameroon, where quarreling and fighting over fertile lands have been a commonplace occurrence in that part of the country. Over the years, there have been tensions as well as clashes between farmers growing various crops in the banks, or rather on the banks of the River Noon. But there's some piece of good news, because they have all come together and making reference there to the farmers, not only to preach the need for peace, but also to preach the need for peaceful coexistence. Here's D. Maureen and Nurdin Joya.
In Cameroon's Noon division, fertile lands on the left bank continue to spark tension and frequent land disputes. But today, the local population, mostly farmers, came together with one message, a call for peace and peaceful coexistence.
Le jus qu'on boit au Cameroun, le mangue doit venir d'ailleurs. Et faisons le champ. Et pensons à ces genres de culture. Parce que ces choses sont en train de se développer.
From these communities, peace is seen as an essential foundation for sustainable development. During the gathering, speakers offer strong advice on promoting unity and preserving harmony.
Je voudrais demander aussi l'amélioration de nos routes. D'ici peut-être 2 mois, l'accès ne sera pas facile.
Despite the hopeful tone, same measures will soon be taken to improve living conditions in the area. Locals also use the occasion to express a deep desire for the government to reinforce its presence in the region, especially in matters relating to traditional leadership.
Nous avons difficulté, pourquoi? Parce que la route, nous n'avons pas la route. 2, nous n'avons pas l'eau. Vous-même, vous savez que l'eau, c'est la vie.
In particular, they are calling for transparency and fairness during consultations for the selection of traditional rulers, a move they say will build trust and help resolve underlying tensions.
And now, despite ratifying various international conventions, Cameroon continues to struggle with enforcing copyright regulations. Authors and especially writers face enormous challenges claiming their rights, and that's largely due to the lack of awareness. Cynthia Latte now reports that they are pleading and urging the authorities to put in place enhanced protection methods and systems for their creative works.
Despite existing laws designed to protect creative works, Cameroon grapples with the enforcement of copyright. A growing number of individuals are turning to self-publishing, complicating the situation for authors who feel that addressing copyright issues remains a distant goal.
Courir après le droit d'auteur semble une utopie.
The limitations of current laws and conventions, combined with weaknesses in the justice system and constitutional shortcomings, contribute to widespread piracy and counterfeiting. According to a representative from the Copyright Corporation for Literature and Dramatic Arts, SOCIETE, many creators are unaware of the processes involved in claiming copyright. Users frequently do not understand the compensation they owe authors when using their works.
La question des droits d'auteur, j'avoue que je n'entends pas beaucoup parler autour de moi, alors que je suis plus ou moins imprégnée dans mon milieu de littérature.
To claim copyright, Jean Noël advises authors to ensure their works are properly exploited.
La première condition voudrait que pour tout écrivain,
the first condition is that the author's work must be edited. It is through this editing process that a work is made public and subjected to reproduction, distribution, and adoption or transformation. Authors are calling for increased government support to enhance copyright protections and safeguard their creative works.
A seminar aimed at evaluating the initiatives aimed at addressing the issue of street children in Cameroon has been underway in the capital Yaoundé since Wednesday, held under the auspices of the Ministry of Social Affairs and the United Nations Programme for Development, the UNDP. The event aims to review the outcomes of the pilot phase of the socio-economic inclusion project for street children. Here now is Oprah Mensah. He is the resident representative of the UNDP in Cameroon in a chat with our very own Ate Bonaventure.
A lot has been done through this PGA project, and there have been some remarkable successes and results which show. But obviously it is not enough. What we are looking for and hoping for is a sustainable solution to the problems of street youth and children. This phenomenon is a constant abuse of the rights of these children, but more importantly, from an economic and social perspective, it is underutilization of potential talent and capital, human resource capital. We look forward to the consultations that are going to take place the next 3 days for the participants to come up with specific suggestions and concrete proposals to help us achieve this objective.
And that was Oprah Mensah, resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme, talking there to Ate Bonaventure. We will stay with Ate Bonaventure because we're going to take a walk through the streets of the capital Yaoundé to discover the struggles, the daily challenges faced by street children in the country's capital. Here we go.
Yaoundé. They are minors who have fled their homes to urban areas either because of juvenile delinquency in search of better life, or they escaped violence in regions ravaged by conflict and terrorist groups. Laminou has been in the streets of Yaoundé for over 2 years and has made this wall his dwelling place.
Like my parents did, I had to look for the means to come to Yaoundé in search for a better life. When I arrived in Yaoundé, I searched for jobs and couldn't find any.
He and his peers would comb the main streets of the city center on a daily basis in search of means of survival.
We turned some metal scraps to go and sell to make ends.
Life on the streets is like a jungle where only the fittest survives, and not all young stars. The Ministry of Social Affairs, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, has been working towards reducing the phenomenon through the project for the reinsertion and socio-economic inclusion of street children and youths.
On to something else now, because as this year's presidential poll draws ever closer, journalists are taking time off to sharpen their elections reporting skills. Members of the Yaoundé at a 2-day workshop. Once again, Ate Bonaventure reports.
Training seminar is an initiative of the Yaoundé branch of the Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists, CAMASEJ, to school its members on effective election reporting.
It's an inclusive workshop to take care of various aspects of elections reporting, like the basics of journalism, the basics of elections reporting. We want to ensure that at the end of this workshop, our members as well as journalists come out well equipped in such a way that they will be reporting free and fair during the election.
The training models include demographics, fact-checking techniques, and knowledge of the electoral code.
This seminar is critical because it's telling us that during elections coverage, there are certain things that you need to look out for. You've got to understand the law, understand the electoral processes, understand the picking process. I mean, what story ideas are emerging.
Speakers are experienced and prominent journalists who have proven their worth at both national and international level.
Journalists are like the cooks for citizens of this country. When they get all the issues, they put them in context for citizens to be able to read, understand the issues at stake and make informed choices. So if the journalist does not go the whole gamut of the electoral process, citizens will be groping in the dark.
The training is part of commemorative activities ahead of this year's Press Freedom Day on May 3.
Away from Cameroon now, the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebels have announced a joint commitment to cease hostilities in the eastern part of the country following a series of talks mediated by Qatar. The announcements come after a week of deliberations in Doha. Both parties have pledged to work towards a permanent truce, although the timelines for the future talks remain uncertain. The ceasefire announcement also comes in the context of significant territorial gains made by the to thousands of deaths. Reports say despite the ceasefire declaration, tensions remain high. It's on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that we put an end to this installment of the news. Thanks once again for the privilege of your company. Catch you same time, same place tomorrow. Have a great evening and goodbye.